If you watch the news in 2026, I think you're wasting your time. I haven't watched the news for a few years now, and I've never felt better. I don't know, there's something either weird or fucked up when it comes to watching the news. I always feel like this weird sense of anxiety or like agitation every time I do watch it. And I don't watch it that often. If I just like see some like fucked up shit going on in the world, it always makes you feel worse, or that's just what I feel anyway. And I think there's a deeper underlying cause behind this. And I think it's because most people are consuming so much in the modern day with like social media, Twitter, flipping the news and that. And I just think it's so unhealthy to be consuming so much information and be so like readily up to date with whatever the fuck's going on in the world. And I think humans were never meant to be so up to date and know all this information and know like to the second what the hell's going on in the entire world. I just think most people are consuming literal fucking slop every day, and I don't think it's good for your mental health. And I don't think it's normal to be so like chronically online and I know everything that is taking place. Like, I don't watch the news anymore, and anytime I see it, I just think, how can you watch this shit? And it's not the fact that it's like bad content, but it's like, how can it be healthy to always be up to date with whatever messed up shit's going on in the world? Like, anytime I watch the news, there's always some shit going down in America with Trump. There's always some kind of conflict in the Middle East. Or there's the elites going up doing some fucking corrupt shit. There's always something weird going on. And you never feel good after hearing that kind of news, do you? I always feel kind of anxious or like agitated because all this like weird fucked up shit's going on in the world and you kind of have no control over it. All you get to have is that you kind of know about this news, but you don't really gain anything from it. In fact, you may even lose something from it. And I do think it's up there with like kind of slop content, because I don't think there's anything inherently to gain from it, and perhaps there's a lot to lose, because when I watch it, I always end up feeling worse after, and it kind of has like a little impact on my own life, and that's why I don't watch it anymore. And I just think back to like people hundreds of years ago, they were not as chronically online as we are today, because they just didn't have the technology to be that. The most online they would be, I mean, they didn't even have phones in the 1900s. The most up-to-date they would be with like what's going on in the world would probably be like the local newspaper, what's going on with their like family, friends and community. That's as much as like news as they'd ever consume, and they'd kind of live this simplistic life. And I feel like we should kind of revert back to those kind of norms and not be so chronically online to the point where, you know, when the next fucking global pandemic is going to be like the hantavirus or some shit, I don't know what it's called, or fucking the next fucked up shit the elites have been up to, and like there's a new files up dropped or some shit like that. I just think you're probably better off not knowing what's going on in the world, and obviously there are causes that matter and should be talked about, but I'm talking more so about news that kind of just happens. Maybe it's like a war or conflict like the one happening in the Middle East, I think, and it's like, do you benefit from knowing that that's taking place? Probably not. And I think of myself like, as an individual, do I have anything to gain from knowing that? Probably not, because I can't really impact what's going on. And I just think that we are probably just better off not knowing about all these things that are taking place, because I don't think I can have any control over what happens, really. So if I'm not in control of what happens, why should I know what's going on. If anything, I always end up feeling like agitated or literally like almost a bit anxious. It's like, what if that happens in my country? You know what I mean? And that's why I've stopped watching it. And anytime I do watch it, there's always some new fucked up shit going on, where if it's like the hantavirus like I mentioned, or some conflict in the Middle East, Trump's up to some fucking hideous shit in America, or I don't know, something's taking place in Africa. There's always something to know about. There's always some news. And I feel like it's designed in a way to make you feel a certain way. And I always think about it. And I'm like, whenever I think about the news, the headlines are always fucking heinous. They're always crazy. And I think they're designed that way to make you feel a certain way. Because I like really like thought about it, and I was like, the news is always like that, isn't it? The news always has like the craziest headline, or like the most fear-inducing headline, because I think at the end of the day, they're kind of a business. If they can write the most like fear-inducing, enticing headline, they get more clicks and views, and they make more money. And that's how I think it works anyway. So their job is to literally make you feel as worse as possible, because they make more views, more clicks, more money from it. Probably through like advertising or something, I don't know. So their job is to make you feel as shit as possible. So why would you consume that shit? You don't have anything to gain from it, and you're probably better off living a life where you're just chronically offline. And I stopped consuming content like this a few years ago now, and from time to time I still use socials, and from time to time I go on things like Twitter, mainly because I like looking up stuff like football and basketball, and I like to keep up to date with those kind of things. But anytime I see some like news or politics or anything like that, I just block the account or just mute it, because I don't want to know what's going on with that, because I don't have any control over that. So why should I need to know what's going on? Whether anything is going on, I just don't want to know. I'm very content with not being so chronically online. I know who the Prime Minister is, or when the next World War is going to be, or anything. I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. Like, I don't feel the need to be so chronically online to know about the latest conflict in the Middle East, or what Trump's been doing. I don't need to know that. And I think it's healthier not knowing that. And ever since I stopped watching it, I feel like my mental health or my life got so much better, because when you stop consuming shit like that, it gives you a chance to like breathe and think. And it's like, I've never felt better until I stopped watching it. And having now stopped watching it, it's almost like a breath of fresh air. I feel like I've got more energy to do shit, like record this video and do things like self-improvement, hit the gym, go for walks, go in nature like I am right now, and just live the life humans were supposed to live, instead of being so chronically online, fucking doom scrolling all day and knowing about every piece of news there is to know, and kind of feeling a sense of anxiety because you probably have little control over what happens in the news and what takes place in the world. So you'd probably be healthier and better off just not consuming at all, and just blocking all the channels and not watching any of the news channels anymore. Because I think it would be healthier if you just didn't, and lived how people lived like hundreds of years ago, and just lived a simple life. And if they really wanted to know what was going on in their local kind of town or city, they'd just buy a local newspaper if they really cared that much. And I just think if you live a life where you're not chronically online and you don't watch the news anymore, there's so much to gain. There's so much mental clarity that comes with not knowing every single detail about what's going on in the world today in 2026. And I think the sooner you stop watching the news, the better your life will get. And that's my hot take.